Okay, the October the 15th, 2020 meeting of the Farragut Municipal Planning Commission come to order, please. We are holding this meeting under Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 64. Live access to the Planning Commission meeting can be seen on Charter Channel 193 and TDS Channel 3. During this period, comments and questions related to items on the agenda and under comments for citizens forum may be submitted to the town by 12 p.m. the day of the meeting. All Farragut Planning Commission meetings are public according to, in compliance with the Tennessee state law. Mark, are we ready to go with the first one here? Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Mark, do a roll call, please.
Okay, hold on one second. Commissioner Dick.
Aye.
Chairman Holliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Myers.
Commissioner Myers, aye.
Vice Mayor Quazzle.
Aye. Sorry.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, aye. Mayor Williams, aye.
Commissioner Bellamy.
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
Commissioner Russ.
Commissioner Russ, aye.
And Commissioner St. Clair.
Aye.
Okay. I'm getting a little here. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Somebody's
me too.
got some mic.
Looks like Steve Krasinski, Duncan. They need to mute. Also, whoever's phone is 14 or some number, they need to mute.
Okay, the motion passes by roll call vote of 9-0.
Motion to approve minutes.
Commissioner Myers, I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Dick.
Aye.
Commissioner Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Commissioner Myers, aye.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Vice Mayor Pavlin, aye.
Commissioner Russ.
Commissioner Russ, aye.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Aye.
Chairman Holliday. Chairman Holliday.
Looks like I may have lost her.
I was, yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, back.
Yes, I can hear
Okay. Aye.
you. Commissioner Bellamy
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
and Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, aye.
The motion passes 9-0.
Okay, we move on to item number 3, discussion and public hearing on a request for a Comcast cable line installation along the south side of Parkside Drive, west of J.C. Penney's and terminating at 11416 Grigsby Chapel. Fogum McIndoe Associates applicant.
Yes, this is a utility project. It involves a approximately 2,250 linear feet of the combination of 2-inch underground conduit and a small section of overhead lines that would be servicing fiber optics for Comcast. The project starts on the east end of J.C. Penney property, and then it runs west to Grigsby Chapel Road, and all of that section is underground. And there's a pole, an overhead utility pole at the corner of Campbell Station and Grigsby Chapel on the east side, southeast intersection, and it basically the underground conduit will go vertical, will go overhead across Campbell Station, and it will be on the overhead utility lines along Grigsby Chapel Road before it terminates into the first piece of property on the south side of Grigsby Chapel Road, the Encore Medical Building at 11416 Grigsby Chapel Road. So all of the work will be either within the public rights of ways or platted utility easements. There's a pretty wide platted utility easement along Parkside Drive, actually very wide. So all the work will be within one of those two things. The remaining staff comments were sent out via email. There's only 5 comments. Staff recommends approval, subject to those comments being addressed. That included to obtain a right-of-way permit from the town and satisfy the field-related requirements from the engineering staff to restore any damaged areas or affected areas to their pre-construction condition, notifying any affected property owners, ensuring that traffic control measures are in place, and providing an as-built of the fiber installation to the town once the project is complete.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, this is John Green. I have a question. I see the name associated with this work is Fulgham, McIndoe and Associates. I don't recall seeing that before. Is that someone that has done business within the town of Farragut before, or is this a different?
Yes.
An engineering
They're a
firm.
local company. They've done a number of projects too.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Mark, are they on the call?
Yes, I think Adam Duncan is, I see him on the list.
Adam, what is this for? Is this for their cable, or are we looking at 5G coming in? What is this? What are they doing here?
No, this is not related to 5G to my knowledge. It's just to pick up service to a new customer located at the 11416 Grigsby Chapel address.
That's all I had.
Mayor Williams. I'm not aware we had Comcast cable in Farragut. I had TDS and Charter.
We have Comcast in the business areas. Yes, they're not in the residential areas from what I understand, but they are in, I guess they're on Parkside. I'm not sure if they're on Kingston Pike, but they are in the business area.
That's my understanding as well.
Is for a commercial customer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Hey, Mark, this is Commissioner Myers. The last couple of years, we've been requiring some letters of credit to ensure that the area is stabilized appropriately, and if there's any damages to sidewalks, usually with their junction boxes, that'll occur. Being that we don't have a long track record with Comcast, do you think it would be appropriate to have a letter of credit posted on this?
I think that's fine. Yeah. I did not have that initially in there because they are a local company, but Like you said, we haven't really, to my knowledge, had a lot of projects with them. And you could certainly add that as a condition if the commissioners want to do that. And we could, I could get with the town engineer and establish an amount for that.
This is John Green. Mark, what was your basis for not asking them to do that?
Well, they are a local company. I mean, they have a local presence like KUB or First Utility. But it's certainly fine to, if you all want to require a letter of credit for this project, that we can certainly add that to the condition.
I'm actually supportive of that. We should probably be consistent with requesting that. We had some issues with, I know on Grigsby Chapel, closer to the Smith Road intersection, where they put, I guess they put cable in. It wasn't this group, but they put cable in and they backfilled with stone, and you can't even grow grass there. So it was very frustrating, and it was well after the project that we realized how much was stone and how little dirt there was. So it would be nice to know that we have the insurance of how to take care of stuff if it's not done properly. I'm not saying that Fulgham McIndoe won't do that, because I think they've certainly proven themselves to be responsible in that, but we probably need to be consistent with it.
Yeah, because I'm not really sure who's actually going to be doing the work. Fulgham and McIndoe just did the engineering, the plans for it. So, but that's certainly fine to add that as a condition. I don't have a problem with that.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Well, we'll either need the original motion maker to make a amendment to their motion or do a substitute motion.
I make a substitute motion that we pass this, and with a 6th stipulation of adding the bond. A letter of credit, excuse me.
Letter of credit.
Second that.
With the dollar amount would be determined by the town engineer.
Correct.
Okay. Mayor seconded that. Okay. All right, let me roll call here. Commissioner Dick.
Aye.
Commissioner Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Commissioner Myers, aye on the substitute motion.
Substitute motion, yes. Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Vice Mayor Pavlin, aye.
Commissioner Russ.
Commissioner Russ, aye.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Aye.
Chairman Holliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Bellamy.
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, aye.
Okay, the amended motion, substitute motion passes 9-0.
Moving on to discussion and public hearing on item number 4, discussion and public hearing on a re-subdivision plat for property located at 204 Boring Road, zoned R-1, 7.57 acres, Benjamin Moorman, applicant.
Yeah, this is a piece of property at the eastern intersection of Boring Road and Boring Lane, both of which are public streets. The re-subdivision involves 7.57 acres, dividing into 2 lots. Lot 1, the northernmost lot, has an existing house on it. Lot 2 is currently vacant. The only reason really that this is being presented to the Planning Commission is that they are requesting the variance to not construct a pedestrian facility along Boring Road. Boring Road is classified as a collector street, and as part of the subdivision regulations and the subdivision process, a pedestrian facility is required to be constructed along a collector street as part of a plat review approval. So we would need to take separate action on the variance request and the plat itself. The staff does recommend approval of the variance due to the minor nature of the redivision that's being presented at this time. That's similar to other action that we've taken in the past. In fact, there's another piece of property as you go up Boring Road or Smith Road that was redivided a few months ago that we also granted a variance on due to the minor nature of that subdivision. So we would need to give that consideration first before we do take action on the variance itself. There is a note that's been added to the plat that basically states that should the property be further divided, that the Planning Commission will reassess the pedestrian facility requirement, and that may very well create a situation where the pedestrian facility would have to be constructed along Boring Road. So does anybody have any questions on the variance request?
I'm going to move to approve with the variance due to the minor nature of the subdivision. That's my motion.
Have a
Mr.
second?
Second.
Okay.
I have no discussion.
This is Commissioner Bellamy. Mr. Shipley, what is the hardship that would be imposed on installing a sidewalk?
Well, what we look at in cases like this, we look at, basically we kind of go back to some Supreme Court decisions that have happened in the past, like rough proportionality. That's the main test that would be in play here, that basically the regulation needs to be proportionate, or what you're asking somebody to do through a regulation needs to be proportional to what the action is. So if somebody were going to come in and subdivide the property into a number of lots and thus add, a lot more pedestrian and vehicular traffic to this 7.5 acres, then that action would be, something that would justify or rise to the level of the requirement that's being asked. This is quite a bit of frontage for likely a sidewalk to be built, where they're just dividing the property into two relatively large lots. So it's a pretty substantial expense for the redivision that they're requesting at this time. Again, if they were to come back and further redivide either of these lots, then we would certainly be able to reassess that, and they may be required to build the.
Do you know an
pedestrian
approximate
facility at
cost?
the time.
Do you have a ballpark figure of an approximate cost for this?
I don't really have a ballpark figure, but it would be, thousands of dollars, really. I'm not.
I think you could take the total frontage and multiply about by $15 per lineal foot, and that's what you would spend. It'd be significant.
Thank you.
Mark, this is John Green. That's also consistent with what we've done in the past, correct? That's our.
Yeah, we all would like to have a facility out there, but we do have to look at the action that's being requested at this time. And, that's a substantial expense for someone just to be dividing a 7.5 acre tract into two lots.
Thank you.
That is consistent with what we've done in the past with these minor subdivisions that leave relatively large lots and don't really create a lot of impact in terms of pedestrian and vehicular traffic in the area. As part of this plat, though, and consistent with our subdivision regulations, they will be dedicating the required rights of ways for both Boring Road and Boring Lane. So that would give us the property in the future, if, this land doesn't get further subdivided, that there, we would have the additional space to put the pedestrian facility in, if that was something that was desired and we had the ability financially to do it.
Mark, that was the question I wanted to make sure. I know that Benny Mormon is on the line and he's the applicant for this. Benny, do you guys understand that there's a dedication of right of way on the frontage for future improvements?
Yes, ma'am. And we very clearly marked that more than any other surveyors do. That shaded area between the wide area between Boring Road and the next shaded area towards the property is the limits of the current right-of-way. We're actually depicting what is being dedicated both graphically and in a area calculation in the area table.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I just, a lot of times I've noticed in past, when property is subdivided, people aren't aware that they've dedicated some of the right of way. And I hate for them to find out on the tail end that all of a sudden the trees they've planted or the things that they were counting on, they don't have because they dedicated right of way when they subdivided property. So, and I appreciate that. It's very clear to me on the plat. I just wanted to make sure that the property owners were fully aware of it for their benefit, so they understand on going in that this is what happens.
They have been so advised. Yes, ma'am.
Benny, this is Mayor Williams. I think we discussed this in the staff developer that this was basically just to settle Ben Boring's estate among the heirs. Am I correct on this?
Yes, sir. The heirs consist of 3 siblings. The daughter is going to keep the residence. The other 2 brothers are planning on marketing Lot 2 as a single family residence, or a single family lot.
Mark, this is Commissioner Myers. I'm fully supportive of this plat, but I do have an observation, more of a housekeeping item. KGIS, which is derived from the Knox County courthouse information, is showing both Ben Boring's old barn and this particular property as 204 Boring Road. We may want to reference this particular parcel by its parcel ID and not by its address. That may create some issue down the road if somebody wanted to go back and look at the records. But the Ben Boring's old barn, most of us probably know that there's a big walking horse on the barn, and it's it's kind of a landmark in town. But that is actually a separate parcel, and that's also known as 204 Boring Road. But again, this is a housekeeping item. I'll leave it up to staff, but we may want to identify this by its parcel ID number, not by its address, as there's ambiguity there.
Yeah, he does. Benny has the parcel information on the plat, but we could reflect that in the minutes if that would be helpful as well.
This is John. So now I'm confused. Is it lane or is it road, the proper address for this property? I noticed it says lane on your agenda. I noticed that Rita said road during the discussion, and now Noah says it's both. So I'm really confused now.
Well, lane is where the house is. That's the address for the house, which is the part of the parent tract that's being divided. So that was what was put on the application, and that's why we included it and advertised it that way.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
This is just on the variance, this first action.
Right.
Okay, I had a motion from Vice Mayor Paul and a second from Commissioner St. Clair. I will read the roll call vote on this. And this is to approve the variance for the reasons noted by Vice Mayor Pavlin. Commissioner Dick?
Aye.
Commissioner Green,
Aye.
Commissioner Myers,
Commissioner Myers, aye.
Vice Mayor Pavlin,
Vice Mayor Pavlin, aye.
Commissioner Russ,
Commissioner Russ, aye.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Commissioner St. Clair, aye.
Chairman Holliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Bellamy,
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
and Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams.
Okay, the motion for the variance passes 9-0. The next item is a vote on the plat itself. The staff recommends approval subject to obtaining the required signatures.
Move for approval with the subject twos.
This is Commissioner Myers. I'll second that approval of the plat. That parcel ID number, by the way, is 142074.
Repeat that, Noah.
That the parcel ID of the particular parcel that we're approving the plat on is 142074.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Yeah, I will add that to the minutes and put that in parentheses by the address that was provided.
Does anybody have any additional questions or comments at this time?
Okay. We'll go through the roll call. Commissioner Dick,
Aye.
Commissioner Green,
Aye.
Commissioner Myers,
Commissioner Myers, aye.
Vice Mayor Pavlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Russ,
Commissioner Russ, aye.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Commissioner St. Clair, aye.
Chairman Holliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Bellamy,
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
and Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams. Aye.
Okay, the plat passes a vote of 9-0.
We'll move on to item number 5, discussion and public hearing on a rezoning of property at 933 McPhee Road from agricultural A to open space residential overlay R-1/OSR 7 acres, Rackley Engineering applicant.
This is part of the property that's immediately south of McPhee Park on the west side of McPhee Road. It's the Velma Seal property. Part of this, our property has been divided off into a 7-acre tract that's owned by her son. And that is the subject of this rezoning request. The applicant is also the same applicant that is rezoned the property south of this, the Gibson Farm property, which was 25 acres, to the same zoning district that they're requesting at this time. And that's the open space residential, the regular open space residential that provides for single family detached. So this property will likely be combined with that Gibson tract to give that property a little more options as far as development, because it has that overhead utility line easement that does run through the property to the south there. So the requested zoning district, the R1 OSR, is consistent with the future land use map for this area. And the staff recommends approval of resolution PC 20-15, which recommends approval of ordinance 20-22 to rezone this property from agricultural to R1 OSR.
Move to approve.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Commissioner Green has none.
Commissioner Dick, do you have any questions or comments?
No comments.
Commissioner Myers?
Commissioner Myers has no questions or comments.
Commissioner Podlin,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Bellamy,
Commissioner Bellamy, no questions or comments.
Commissioner Russ,
No questions or comments.
Commissioner St. Clair,
No questions or comments.
Commissioner Williams, Mayor.
None, thank you.
And I have no questions or comments at this time. So,
Okay. Well, I'll go through the roll call then. This is recommending approval of the rezoning. Commissioner Dick. Commissioner Dick.
Did you hear me?
No, I do now.
Okay, aye.
Okay. Commissioner Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Commissioner Myers, aye.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Vice Mayor Pavlin, aye.
Commissioner Russ.
Commissioner Russ, aye.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Mr. St. Clair, aye.
Chairman Holliday.
aye.
Commissioner Bellamy.
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams,
And the motion passes 9-0. This will go to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for first reading, probably the second Tuesday in November.
Item number 6, discussion and public hearing on an amendment to the Farragut Municipal Code, Appendix A, zoning, Chapter 4, Section 29, grand opening special events permit to provide for a different sign related to provisions. Town of Farragut applicant.
This is an item that we've talked about at workshop sessions the last couple of months. And as I stated last time, well, both times really, what we're really doing here is cleaning this section of the zoning ordinance up, clarifying the intent, and how it's really been applied in the past and since we've had it. Trying to improve the appearance of grand opening signs. That's the existing sign there on the screen we have. It's a very large sign, what we have right now, and it's hard to deal with. There's kind of a process that people have to go through with deposits and returning signs and different things that kind of disincentivizes the process. And so we're trying to address that. Update the grand opening section to reflect the updated sign ordinance that we just passed a couple of months ago. So what we talked about last month was the Farragut Business Alliance and their potential role in administering the grand opening signs. And the feedback that the staff received was that, for branding and business relation purposes, it would be a good idea to keep these grand opening signs as being owned by the town and administered through the town. And we would do that at this point through the Farragut Business Alliance. It would be a good way to have outreach to new businesses or new services that are opening in the town. So that's what we're proposing in Ordinance 20-23, is trying to, again, go through and clean up the existing language, update it in relation to the current sign provisions, and then also, update it in other areas. We talk about food trucks. If food trucks are part of a grand opening event, what would be required and how that would be administered and things like that. That's really not currently addressed in the existing language. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions if anyone has any, but the staff does recommend approval of resolution PC 20-16, which recommends approval of ordinance 20-23.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Myers, second.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Dick, we'll start with you.
I have a question. Does the applicant have to put down a deposit when they take the sign, and then they would get the deposit back if they return it in good condition?
That's the current practice. I'm proposing to not require that now. They're just gonna need to sign off on something and, we'll have to deal with that if it happens. I've never had to my knowledge, not return a deposit. And again, these businesses, to me, they've got enough things going on to have to worry about some kind of additional hoop to jump through. So what I'm trying to do is make it as simple and straightforward as possible. All they need to do is apply, indicate if they want to sign, roughly where they think they want to put it, what time frame, and then coordinate that with the town through the Farragut Business Alliance. So we're kind of getting rid of all that additional bureaucracy that we currently have with regards to administering the sign itself.
Thank you.
Commissioner Green, any questions or comments?
I have none, thank you.
Commissioner Pavlin, Vice Mayor.
I have none.
Commissioner Bellamy.
I have a comment. Mr. Shipley, to echo your comments about streamlined. In paragraph 8, would it make more sense to remove good condition and replace with in same condition as issued? I know that sounds like something an attorney would say, but good condition is so subjective. You're going to get into a situation if there is a damaged sign that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, let me see here. I think that's good.
I think that would help you moving forward. Same condition or in same condition as issued, because if we're not taking a deposit for damages, it would be very easy for someone to say, well, it's in good condition, albeit slightly damaged, it's still in good condition.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, I think that definitely gives us more clarity in our expectations for that.
A simple photograph of the sign prior to issuing would be evidence of good condition.
Yeah.
What's the substitute language again, Commissioner Bellamy? Support post to the town in same condition?
As issued.
Same condition as issued instead of in good condition.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got it. That's good. Yep. Did you have any other changes or suggestions?
No, sir. That's everything.
Yeah, that's much more clear. So I like that.
Commissioner Russ, you have any questions or comments?
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Sinclair?
No questions or comments.
Mayor Williams?
Mayor Williams, no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions.
Rita, then I'll go ahead and make an amended motion.
Please.
To include that, the amended language in paragraph 8.
Commissioner Myers, I'll second.
Okay, let's go through the roll call. Commissioner Dick. Commissioner Dick, this is on the amended motion to clarify paragraph 8 as recommended by Commissioner Bellamy.
Aye.
Commissioner Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Commissioner Myers, aye.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Vice Mayor Pavlin, aye.
Commissioner Russ.
Commissioner Russ, aye.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Mr. St. Clair, aye.
Chairman Holliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Bellamy.
Commissioner Bellamy, aye.
And Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, aye.
The amended motion passes 9-0.
Moving on to item number 7 now. Discussion, now this is for discussion purposes only. Discussion on request to amend Appendix A zoning, Chapter 3, specific district regulations, Section 12, General Commercial District, C-1, B3, as it relates to the outdoor display and storage of general farm implements and lawn care equipment, riding lawnmowers, and related accessories. Farragut Lawn and Tractor applicant. And as I said, for discussion purposes only, we will not be voting on this tonight.
Yeah, this property is located actually in Loudoun County. It's located at 13131 Kingston Pike, and on the north side of Kingston Pike. This building on the screen was issued a certificate of occupancy in April of 2007. You might remember their original building just to the east, smaller building. So when we issued the certificate of occupancy in 2007, it was conditioned on the outdoor storage and display being in compliance. And so we had some issues with that, and we worked with the property owner after the issuance of the CO to actually develop the language that's in the ordinance currently, and that was adopted in January of 2008. And just as a summary, that language, which is part of the general commercial zoning district, basically talks about, provides a list of criteria dealing with businesses that have farm implements and lawn care equipment because of their kind of unique needs and characteristics in relation to maybe other uses permitted in C1. So one of the conditions is dealing with the outdoor storage and display. That is required to be behind the rear building plane, which you can't even see in this picture. It would be pretty far back. The second condition dealt with basically ensuring that there was no equipment being stored or displayed on sidewalks or walkways or other vehicle ways, like it is right there on the screen. The third condition dealt with a recognition that these kind of businesses are going to have temporarily a situation where there's equipment being unloaded and unpackaged. That's understandable, but that's very different from being displayed on a longer term basis once that's been unpackaged and delivered, to the site. There's some language dealing with the packaging materials being stored in an area designed for those. And basically, that if you're going to have outdoor display of merchandise, that it's to be in an area that's designed for that, a permanent covered area. And that's what that green roofed area is on the right there of the screen. That was the approved display area for this business. So that's where they can put their, products to be displayed for sale, and not really anywhere else with the current language. So the problem has been really for years, frankly, that this language is not being followed. These slides pretty much show what's happening out there, is that the material is being stored and displayed in areas that are well beyond the area that was designed and approved for that. This ultimately recently ended up in a citation to court. The applicant I have talked with and basically said that, you do have to go by the language that we have in place, but you certainly, as anyone does, have the ability to request a text amendment and, take that through the process and present your case, what you want to do, and see where it goes. So that's kind of how we got to this point. they've really got a couple of issues that they were cited for. The display issue that we're dealing with tonight with the zoning ordinance provisions, and then a sign violation where they take a gator with a sign in the back and they pull it up near Kingston Pike and use it essentially as a vehicular sign, which is not allowed in the sign ordinance. And I've mentioned to the applicant that they certainly have the ability to apply for a compliant ground mounted sign. They have applied for one and had one approved in the past, but never put it up for some reason. And then also they could have a building mounted sign as well. So there's some opportunities in terms of signage, but that's not really what's before you tonight. Really what's before you tonight is the request to amend the language of the zoning ordinance to allow essentially for the status quo, what's been going on this site for a while. So again, I'm just going to show some of these pictures. What I would say is, as you all know, in terms of outdoor storage and display, it's been kind of a standard of the towns. It's in its ordinances that if you're going to have or want to have outdoor storage and display, that you need to have that in an area that's contained so that the material is not just scattered randomly throughout the site. That's what we did with Gander Mountain on Parkside Drive when they were in town. They had an outdoor area that was designed and approved where they put their canoes and other products, but they did not put those out near Parkside Drive or out beyond that defined area. So that's kind of the issue. We're not, I'm open to options, but the main issue here is that this is just random and this material is being placed all over the front, including over the sidewalk constantly. You could walk from the sidewalk along Kingston Pike to the entrance of the building because it's typically blocked by equipment. As you all know, this is an entranceway into the town from the west, from Loudoun County. And, this does kind of create a cluttered effect as you come into the town. So that's kind of the issue. That the text amendments that the applicant's requesting would basically allow them to do what they're doing right now for all practical purposes. But the display wouldn't really be essentially regulated. So we would not support that broad of a text amendment at this time.
Mark, before we move on, could you explain the town limits down in that area?
Well, the town limits go all the way down to Harrison Road, which is just west of the gas station on the north side of Kingston Pike. If you look at this image right here, the green is the John Deere building. And then you got an old grandfathered auto repair shop, and then you've got the gas station. And that's the last tract on the north side of Kingston Pike in the town, even though those tracts are in Loudoun County. On the south side, the nursery, for example, is not in the town. The first building on the south side of Kingston Pike is the Y12 credit union.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I do, whenever I get an opportunity.
Go ahead.
Well, Mark has laid out a lot of information for you and has a lot of documentation. What has not been said is I need to give you a little background on this. I've been a John Deere dealer in the town of Farragut for 29 years. Matter of fact, 29 years today. I bought this property that you're talking about from the town of Farragut in 1994. And at that time, the town of Farragut placed no restrictions whatsoever in my use of that property as a John Deere dealership. For 13 years, I used that property to display, show equipment, not store equipment, but to display and show temporarily equipment. In 2006, we started improving the building, and a very nice facility if you drive by and come in and take a look at it. And we completed that and opened for business on January the 1st, 2007 as a John Deere dealer. But at that time, the existing Farragut staffer, who's no longer with the town, would not give us an occupancy permit because she didn't want to have any outdoor display of equipment. As a John Deere equipment dealer or any equipment dealer, you cannot tolerate that. So over a period of months, back and forth before the Planning Commission and also before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, we negotiated a compromise that Mark just described to you about how we display our equipment. In the process, subsequent to that time, in our operations, we found out it's almost impossible in the daily activities of conducting our business with our customers we have to move the equipment in and out of our showroom across the area that he shows right there, right now. In and out, we do that in the morning and we bring it back in at night. If you drive by the dealership at this time, you won't see a single thing out here, nor will you see it on the weekends or any other time. It's only during our business hours from 8 in the morning to 5 at night. Now, we do not store equipment, as has been alleged, out here. It's temporarily parked out here. Sometimes we have to move this equipment out of our showroom in order to clean and polish the floor. And we do, in fact, put it out. As a matter of fact, the picture you're seeing right now is a result of us doing that. There are other times that we move the equipment out there, and we have done so since the onset of the virus. We evacuate the showroom in order to prevent congregation of customers around the equipment in the showroom. As many as 10 to 15 people congregate around equipment. So we had to move it outside during this period of time to prevent the congregation of people around our equipment. In this case, it's a protection for our customers and for our employees. I realize at the time it's a violation of the existing ordinance, but it's something that I had to do. Matter of fact, it has been done with the town's approval and in years past. For example, during the construction phase of Dixie Junction reconstruction for about 2.5 years, there was no enforcement by the town at the time of us displaying our equipment out front during business hours. So the enforcement has been totally inconsistent. And what I want to do is try to get some language that allows us to do our job very efficiently, not to be obtrusive and abusive to anybody as far as displaying of equipment or inconvenience to anybody, but get language in the ordinance that allows us to have the flexibility to take our equipment in and out without citing, a problem with the town. Now, just for example, the type of equipment that we sell and display out there is the very type of equipment that you see on your parks and out in front of the town hall to mow your grass and everything. Matter of fact, the town of Farragut has been one of my biggest customers, and it's a mutual beneficial arrangement for the town and for us. We take care of your equipment. We give you priority on the service. We give you discounted sales that you can't get anywhere else. And that's pretty much my contribution to the town of Farragut. And in the process, we have been able to stay in business for 29 years when during 2007, the economic downturn, there were dealerships similar to mine that were going out of business all across the country. But we enjoy doing business in the town of Farragut. We have a lot of good customers. We have over 17,000 customers on our data base and our computers that we've done business with in our 29 years. And matter of fact, many of the people that I'm talking to right now are our customers. And I think all of you will agree that you get top-notch service from our dealership. I wish that I could get some consideration from you folks to allow us to some way to where it's acceptable to you and also acceptable to me, that we can have some flexibility in our operations on this. I point out that we are growing, our sales are growing. We not only sell here to the people in East Tennessee, we have shipped equipment to our armed forces in Afghanistan and Iraq, some equipment that you never see. And we ship equipment to government agencies all over the United States. So it's been a good business for us. We enjoy doing business here. It'd be a lot more enjoyable if I didn't have to deal over and over with this situation, with this equipment being out front. Matter of fact, as an example, the type of equipment that we sell, if I'm out mowing my grass out in front of the dealership, and I've had this happen, I get a call and I've got to go in, I leave the equipment outside, and somebody comes around from the town and says, oh, there's a piece of equipment out front here. That's in violation of the ordinance. And in fact, it is. And I want to prevent things like that from happening. Matter of fact, if as I move equipment into and out of the building, through that door that you see under that covered area there, why, every time I take it across the grass, it's a violation of your ordinance. We need to find some way that's acceptable to you and acceptable to me to allow us to have the flexibility to do our day-to-day operations. And I appreciate you listening to me rant and rave for this period of time. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
This is Commissioner Myers. I have a comment. I've known Mr. Davis for 25 years, and in those 25 years, I bet I've driven by hundreds of John Deere dealerships and tractor dealerships across this country. And his is an exception, being that it is probably the most organized and neatly kept dealership of any of the dealerships I've seen. All that's from Alabama to Washington. And I do think that common sense would prevail that if you're in the lawn and landscape and tractor and farm implement business, we should have some way for an individual to be able to display his equipment, as well as a individual be able to come in and test the equipment. I have personally tested some of his equipment there, and I think that surely there's some common sense here that we could come up with. I do think that Mr. Davis could probably make an effort to not block the sidewalks and keep his equipment in the grass areas, and I suspect that he would be amenable to do so. But it seems like that that the teeth of this ordinance is a little overreaching.
This is Commissioner St. Clair. I would echo Noah's comments. I think that though we ought to kind of look hard at this sign in the back of the gator, though. I think maybe, we have kind of a compromise that we could work out here. Also, I'm mindful of what's across the street and relative to, it's also at the entrance of the town, but we have no control over it. This is kind of a unique situation at our entry, and I think we ought to work with Mr. Davis to work to compromise here relative to what's good for him and good for us.
And I'll add, I agree with what Commissioner St. Clair and Commissioner Myers are saying. I think the big issue to me is we've got to resolve the sign situation. which is separate from the other issues he's dealing with. And obviously, I have not been around long to understand the history, and I do not test farm equipment, so I haven't the first clue as to what goes into that. So I'm going to defer and really look to Commissioner Myers, because you know what you're looking at, you know what you're talking about. I would like to know that we're trying to maintain things neatly, and the sign issue is the biggest issue to me.
Well, I'd like for you to come out at any time. I'd certainly entertain you. I'd appreciate if you would. So you are my alderman, by the way. So I'd be glad to have you out here.
And that, but I don't need to be at a John Deere dealership. My husband would kill me. It's something that we don't need.
This is Commissioner Green. As I read the requested change, it pretty much gives the owner unlimited ability to put as many pieces of equipment out there as possible. And are we setting a bad precedent for other types of businesses that want to display things out in the front? It looks like there's some risk there for other businesses.
I agree with Commissioner Green. I'm always saying we open up Pandora's box when we don't follow the ordinance, and I think this is the case. That if we allow one business to do this, then another business has a good argument of why can't I put my product out, like we did at Gander Mountain. They spent quite a bit of money building a area to put their outdoor equipment in. So I totally agree with Commissioner Green on the fact that we're opening up Pandora's box for other businesses to want to put their products outside too.
This is Commissioner Green again. I think I heard Mr. Davis asking for a compromise. I don't think I hear a compromise in the wording. It just gives carte blanche permission to put as much equipment out front as he likes. Perhaps a compromise would be a couple of concrete pads in the area that would somewhat limit how much equipment is going to be out in the front. I don't exactly know the perfect solution, but I think the wording as proposed is not a compromise. It's just a blanket approval of what he'd like to do, and as much equipment out in the front as he chooses to.
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking, for consideration. Be happy to talk to him. I've asked for the town staff to come out and take a look at the way we have to operate. As of yet, I haven't got anybody to come out, but I would appreciate anybody on the commission and the town staff to get out and show you how we operate and why. And I'm not interested in putting 20 pieces of equipment out front, but I am asking for the flexibility of moving people across the front in the morning and during the business hours. And if you take a look at this aerial photograph, what I'm dealing with, you're talking about me displaying equipment, but right to the west of me, there's an automobile dealership, automobile repair facility that's got a lineup of old wrecked cars right past that, and you've done nothing about them. Secondly, right across the street, you've got the outdoor storage of about 2 acres of plants, and it's a great place, but a lot of it is in the town of Farragut area. Some of it's in Loudoun County, some of it's in Knox County. But I am surrounded by people who have outdoor storage and outdoor sales. And, I'd like to have some leveling of the playing field, as you might say.
This is Commissioner Green again. I understand what you're saying, but in changing the ordinance, we aren't just satisfying your needs. We're actually opening the door to anyone else. And the business, you may sell the business someday, and the next owner may decide a little different. Let me continue. Mark, the property next door with all the cars, did I hear you say that's grandfathered and we're kind of limited in what we can do there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a different, I agree that it's an eyesore. I'm not I don't disagree with Mr. Davis on that, but it is grandfathered in, and it's not display material. It's products that are being worked on, being serviced. I mean, we kind of have that in a couple other auto places in the town, but it's not display material like what's being considered at this time. This location, actually, we developed the ordinance specifically for this type of use, said back in 2008. The nursery on the south side of Kingston Pike is not in the town. None of that is in the town. So that the first piece of property that's in the town on the south side is the Y12 Federal Credit Union. So that's not something we have control over.
Mark, what you need to do is come out and take a look at it. And they are storing stuff in Knox County, in the town of Farragut limits. I see it every day, every single day.
I would say you're exactly right, Wayne, because I was down there to buy an azalea the other day, and I noticed it specifically with my own eye. I don't think we're setting a precedent that we can work a compromise in this area, because this is not something that applies to every area in the town.
I think probably if you was going to look at maybe some kind of a compromise, to me, the issue I see is that you need to have a defined space for this stuff. It can't just be scattered everywhere and undefined. So you need to have some kind of railing, a fencing, or something that actually encloses a space for that. It could be perhaps to the east of the existing covered area, or east and west, potentially, but don't go any closer to Kingston Pike than the front of the existing covered area. And that would give them additional space on each side of that. But it would have to be, fenced or walled in or something to where you could still see the product, but it would be in a defined space. Because if you don't do that, it's not something that is enforceable. It's hard to, they're just, people are going to put stuff wherever they want to put it. So to me, if you're looking at potentially a compromise, because he really doesn't have any space that I can see on the east side, because that's mostly the parking lot, or of course in the back it's not going to help him any, and then the west side doesn't have any space. So that's the only areas that I can see where there might be some kind of potential openness to looking at some additional display options. But I think it does, whatever we come up with, if y'all want to change it, I think it needs to be in a defined space that's structurally defined somehow, so where you can still see the material, but it's not just randomly placed wherever you want to place it.
This is Commissioner Green. I'm inclined to agree with that. As a sideline, sort of related, is the property next door to the right of the green building in your display right now, that's an abandoned piece of property?
That's the old John Deere dealership where I operated since 1991 till 2007. And we, like I mentioned, is that we bought the property where it's now in question from the town of Farragut in 1994. And we used that property for 13 years to display and test and demonstrate our equipment. And then we improved that property in 2007. And you heard about the occupancy permit problem. And we negotiated then with the town. And one of the reasons we agreed to the compromise, if you remember in 2007, the economy started tanking very fast. You had a lot of non-recurring expenses on a new building and everything. I was paying $300 an hour for an attorney to try to help me on this. And it got to the point where over and over, we had to do something. I had to spend my time in keeping the business alive during that time. So that's the reason that the compromise was made.
So my question was, is that the building abandoned now?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And the building, the building with the green roof actually was a new built building back in 2007.
That's correct.
This is Commissioner Myers. I'm going to throw out a couple of observations. First, the property to the east that we're talking about, that's the old John Deere dealership, is owned by an unrelated party to Mr. Davis. So that is really not part of our discussion tonight. However, zoning and selling farm equipment is part of our discussion. I think what differentiates Mr. Davis from the old Gander Mountain or even the nursery across the street is his display is temporary in nature. He puts it out in the mornings and he puts it up typically at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They put all their equipment back inside. And I can't see having a fenced in area. Then all of a sudden you have a permanent display area. I think I would rather see the equipment on the grass on a temporary basis during normal business hours than having a bunch of stuff stored out there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
I would echo that. I think that the idea of the compromise would, come on, let's look for a permanent sign as a part of this. And also just unblock the sidewalk, except for temporary movements of equipment.
Wayne,
I think having the equipment on the grass is perfectly natural in its natural setting. It gives people a chance to go out and test the equipment. This has the flexibility to put it behind a fence or other. It's just counterintuitive to me for this type of use.
Well, I think if you're all of a sudden you want to go demonstrate, or I want to go test drive a new zero-turn mower, Wayne would have to move 7 mowers out of the way for me to drive one because it's back in a fenced-in area. Wayne, can you give us your thoughts about the sign? Your sign, the one in the back of the Gator, is creating some heartburn for some of us on the commission, and maybe even yours truly a little bit. What are your thoughts about getting a permanent sign installed? Obviously, either using your old permit that you've been approved for or applying for a new permit.
We can do that tomorrow, start that tomorrow. I have no problems with the sign. What we use that's a company-owned vehicle, that Gator, and we use that to take to shows and displays, and it's got the John Deere logo on it. And it's, we have had an issue with the town about our logos on our company vehicles before, and was actually summoned to the court, and the judge ruled in our favor that we could display, our company logo on our own equipment. So, but yeah, if it's a heartburn for everybody, yeah, I'll take it off take it off tomorrow.
Well,
I think there's a difference to me with a logo that's on, it's the part of the vehicle, the one that's kind of strapped across it, like you're showing there, and you're kind of, that really reeks of temporary. And we've had other instances, talking about precedents in the town, we have not allowed that kind of approach wherever we could deal with it. Well, so I would much rather see a nice permanent sign out there, Wayne, for that. But
yeah, we can do that. We can take the sign off tomorrow. You don't have to worry about that.
Wayne, we'd like to see you get some permanent signage, whether you want to do wall-mounted signage on the front of your building or ground-mounted signage.
Let me tell you the reason, Noah, that I haven't done the permanent signage. I not only sell John Deere's, but as you know, I sell Exmark and Walkers and other brands. And quite frankly, I've had a discussion with David Smoke about this, is I don't have enough space on the front on the current signage ordinances to, do justice to all of my brands. So that's one of the reasons I haven't done it so far. But yes, I can do the permanent sign with the John Deere sign up front. Be happy to do
that. Mayor Williams.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I believe the name of your company is Farragut Lawn and Tractor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your sign needs to read. It don't need to read John Deere or Exmark or anything else. It needs to read Farragut Lawn and Tractor. because that's another company. So regardless of what brand of equipment you sell, then I believe that Farragut Lawn and Tractor would be the way to go on whether you do a building sign or a mounted sign. That's up to you, as long as it meets the requirements that Mark puts out there on as far as the sign ordinance. As far as the picture we saw with sidewalk, I don't think that's a good thing to do. I think you need to keep sidewalks open for a whole lot of reasons, but I think that would be a good practice in the future. As far as what's sitting out there, I don't know why you have so much out there, but if you pulled it back away from the road a little bit, we have basically setback numbers ordinance for buildings, but we don't have anything for setbacks for pieces of equipment or vehicles that are sitting in the grass. So if you pull it back some, I think that's where you're getting toward what we're talking about as far as some sort of a point with the staff. I know you have to pull it out in the morning and take it in the evening, but I don't think you need to have all that out there. If you sell John Deere, you may have a Gator, you may have a zero turn, you may have an X-Mark mower or whatever, but to have it looks like a used car lot now, and that's kind of what I think gives everybody heartburn when they come by and look at it. So I think if we have a little bit of give and take on this, I believe that everybody would probably agree that that's something that would help both of us. Okay, that's all I have.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. And matter of fact, if you drove by today or yesterday, you wouldn't see the same equipment out there. On this particular date, this picture was taken. The probability is what we were doing. Had to evacuate the entire showroom and clean the floor and polish the floor, and we do that once a month. And we do not park stuff on the driveway except on very, very rare occasions, and only, for maybe 15 minutes or so until we can get things done. But yes, I'm willing to work with you anyway to meet your requirements and also give me some flexibility to move my equipment now. And the sign issue is a non-issue with me, so I'd be happy to that thing comes down tomorrow.
Other thing, when you get back close to the building there on each side of your canopy, if you're pulling them out to clean the floor or to whatever you're doing, if you can suck them back in there closer to the building, I can understand having them out there, but out near the road, you've got plenty of room on the east and west side of your canopy that you could line them up there. You could soldier them right across through there on both sides. They don't need to be out near the road. That's I think what gives everybody the heartburn. I think that type of compromise right there would be probably more in line with what we're looking for.
Oh, that's great. Be happy to do that.
This is Commissioner Green again. I like the approach that Mayor's suggesting. I'm opposed to the wording change as it is because, again, that's just carte blanche to put stuff wherever you want. I don't know if Mark, if you can put in some setback or some guidance on keeping it back and closer to the building and making it not look so cluttered, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm gonna jump in here for a minute just to have a talk about the fact of the matter is the definition. I mean the intro of this item is retail outlets for the sale of general farm implements and lawn care equipment such as tractors, riding lawnmowers, and related accessories, which is very different than what the issues that Gander Mountain had. They've got canoes, and those are much smaller and we're talking about two different products here. So we can still control outdoor displays for other types of stores and like Noah indicated, have some kind of common sense changes here that recognize that general farm implements and lawn care equipment is a little bit bulkier than what Gander Mountain was going to have in their storage area. So I'm open to considering certainly some language that works with what's going on here. Certainly a setback sounds like what Mayor Williams is talking about, so that they're not coming closer to the street. I don't know what that setback is, but there has to be some consideration for is he selling, and are we going to see a general farm implement and lawn care equipment coming into other areas of town? I mean, I get that we want to make sure that what we're doing is going to, I mean, it carries over to what's, it's not for this specific, but where we're going to see that, where would we realistically see that? Because we can try and solve every situation, but we kind of have to be working in reality as well. So that's kind of where I am.
But Wayne, could you keep all the equipment behind the first parking space there on the, if you look at the first parking space on the east side? I don't know exactly what the parking lot setback is, but I mean, if we're trying to establish like a visual line to try to keep the stuff behind, if you could, because that comes out a little bit further than that outdoor display area.
Surely we can do that, except there's occasions though that the bigger stuff we have to bring down the driveway and bring it up on the hard surface into the covered porch area to bring it into our showroom. You have a big door off the front there. That way it's how we have to bring the big stuff in and out. Now we don't put real big stuff in the showroom. The biggest stuff we put in the showroom is typically the stuff that you see in your parks and your commercial mowing equipment and your gators and that sort of stuff. Matter of fact, the big tractors, John Deere tractors that you've got that town of Farragut uses, we don't put those in the showroom. They're in back where they're permitted by your ordinance. So it's the gators and the smaller stuff that we pull in and out on a daily basis. But we have to have the flexibility to move them in and out.
Yeah, I understand it moving in and out, but I guess if we're trying to define a space where you might just display stuff during the day, if we're trying to establish something,
at first parking area is fine if that's the limit. That's
it looks like that's about a 40-foot, 35 to 40 foot from the property line, based on my site plan I have here in the office. But you can see a car parked there. I'm not sure if that's the first space or not. It's hard to tell.
Yes, it is.
Feel a little closer to Kingston Pike than the outdoor display area, and that way there's some physical definition to where you need to try to stay behind, you know, for your display.
That's a good definition, and it's easily done by us.
Mark, can you, is it possible for you to rearrange this request as far as the wording to where it suits what we've discussed here?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it and, you know, send it to you all, and we might need to workshop it again. I'm not sure. Certainly, I think it sounds like Mr. Davis is going to be addressing the sign immediately. I think that's a easy thing to address, it would seem to me. And then just try to keep the sidewalk obviously clear. And I can try to put something together, certainly for a workshop discussion for next time. Maybe for a recommendation. I just, if everybody's in agreement with that, maybe as an approach to deal with this, to make sure that the display doesn't come any closer than the first parking space, the outer, basically the south end of the first parking space to Kingston Pike. And then the sidewalk and then, has to remain clear at all times. We'll deal with the signage separately, and certainly, I could help Wayne with the sign application for both a ground mounted sign and a wall mounted sign. He's allowed to have both. And I think, like the mayor suggests, Farragut Lawn and Tractor seemed to me to be what I would put on the ground mounted sign and a building mounted sign, because that's the name of the business, and that would that would kind of encompass all the brands that business, provides for. So I think that would be a good way to deal with that. And then you'd have something you could illuminate or whatever, and it'd be out there permanently. And wouldn't have to worry about it.
Mayor, again, I think 17,000 customers. I think everybody pretty well knows what you sell and where you're at. And so if you've got somebody that drives by and you look up and see that ground mounted sign that says Farragut Lawn and Tractor, or the one on the building, I don't think there'll be any reason for him to think it's anything but what you are. Okay.
All right. I appreciate it, Mayor. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Anybody on the planning commission have any more questions or comments?
Yes, I do. Point out the first place.
I'm not sure if this pointer works or not, frankly. But you can see the car there. I think that's the first parking space. I don't know if you can see that arrow in it or not.
Oh, yeah. We can see that.
That's roughly where the first parking space is. As you come in from Kingston Pike. Again, it looks like it, based on the site plan, it's not necessarily as built, but it's a roughly 35 to 40 feet from the property line, Kingston Pike, not the curb, but the actual property line.
That's about what our setback is, Mark.
Well, the parking lot setback really only is 20 feet. And I would normally be okay with that. It's just that I was trying to think of something that would be, a physical marker that you could use, so that if we were, trying to make sure that they were keeping their display behind something, that it would be, obvious where they needed to keep it behind. So that's the only reason I was going by the parking space. But really, that first parking space could be 20 feet from the front property line. So, I mean, I guess theoretically they could add another space to come closer to Kingston Pike. I guess if you just want to get creative to get to the 20-foot setback. I'm not trying to throw out some kind of way to get around something, but that's, it appears that the first space is a little bit further setback than what it would actually be required to be.
Well, it looks to me, Mark, like it needs somewhere, you're going to need somewhere for his customers to park. And can they get around this equipment to park farther towards the back?
Yeah, I'd have to look at an as-built to see where exactly I know there is an as-built, I just don't have it in front of me.
We've got a lot of parking spaces on the east side and also in the back too. So we're able to handle most all the traffic that comes in there, except when I get a bunch of landscapers to bring in their trucks and trailers at the same time.
Rita, I think what we're talking about is just a line of sight point at this, as far as what that first spot is, a line of sight. I mean, you can do a visual line across through there. I think that's what Mark's getting at, as opposed to actually.
Right. But if he has his equipment parked out there, there needs to be a space for the traffic to get through it, to get to his parking spot was what I was wondering about.
Well, he won't be blocking the access way with equipment. That's going to be over in the grassed area. Probably what I'll have to do is, I can't really word the language of the ordinance to say behind the first parking space, because that could always change. What I'm going to do is take wherever that first parking space setback is, and that's going to be the number that needs the feet that it needs to be behind. But we'll know basically that's where you look, you know, when you're assessing whether that display material is behind the line. But it might be 35 feet. It's probably going to be something like 35 feet from the front property line for that display material to be behind. But, you know, I was just kind of pointing out something that would be visual that you could, you know, you could look at it and say, okay, is all this display stuff behind this, the front plane of this first parking space? And yes, it is, so it's fine. If it's not, they need to move it back.
Mark, Mayor Williams again, maybe we can, you and I go out, catch up with Wayne there and pull a string and measure some.
Yeah, we can.
Field
do
trip.
that. If that's an approach y'all wanted to go with, then we could certainly figure out what makes the most sense.
I would appreciate that. I'd be glad to have you.
This is Commissioner Myers. Personally, when I'm looking at that line and I'm visually drawing that line across the front of his property, that's going to cut out the majority of his grass. I think for the staff to be able to wordsmith a text amendment, we ought to just say, well, let's measure something either from the face of curb, from the edge of asphalt, from behind the sidewalk. Obviously, the right-of-way is something that is fairly consistent, although the right-of-ways do change a little bit along Kingston Pike with some of the newer parcels versus older parcels. But I think more appropriate maybe to have something like a 20-foot setback, which we can now build buildings within 20 feet of Kingston Pike. And I think a 20-foot setback from the right-of-way would give Wayne a little bit more room to be able to display his equipment. If we try to draw a line where that first parking spot is, he's going to lose 2/3 of that grass area as eligible area for display. And I don't think that's achieving the results that either the applicant would like to see or what myself as a commissioner thinks appropriate in this situation. So I think we need to come up with some way to measure. That way we can, we do get somebody else comes to the town of Farragut and wants to build a tractor dealership. We've got something that is not arbitrary, but is very objective in the way we measure this.
Well, another way to do that would be like how we measure special event signs, and we could just say that, and I'm just throwing out this hypothetically, that the nearest part of the display material would have to be, 30 feet from the edge of the street or the edge of the curbing, so that that's physical element that anyone can measure from, and we could do it that way as well. That would accomplish the same, so that as you're moving across Kingston Pike, you have a line with which you're staying behind that can be easily measured and evaluated.
Well, I think that approach is completely appropriate. One thing about it, all commercial businesses in this town all have asphalt, edge of asphalt in front of their business. Some of them have curbs, some don't have curbs, some of them have sidewalks, some of them don't have sidewalks. But I think something that we can always measure from is the edge of asphalt.
I agree with Noah on that, because if you look at this building, it does not sit square with the rest. It's at a skew, it's at an angle. And again, if you did measure from that first parking spot, I'm like Noah, I drew the line, and that probably wouldn't work very well.
Commissioner Green, I like the idea where the mayor and Mark and Mr. Davis go out and see if they can mutually agree on a proposal on distance or whatever. A feeling that if Mr. Davis and the mayor and Mark are all in agreement, that probably the rest of us can see fit to climb on board. Thank you.
Sounds fun to me.
Sounds great to me.
Any more questions or comments? And Mark's going to have something either within the next couple of months with this.
Well, I mean, I'll definitely have something at least for a workshop next month. I mean, in November, but
Okay.
we'll try to meet with Wayne out there in the next couple of weeks for sure. And maybe next week, hopefully, and just talk through what makes sense and then try to figure out how to put that language. So we'll do that.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of utilities. Number 8, do we have any utilities, Mark?
I do not have any additional utilities, no.
In that case, item number 9, citizens forum.
Mark, before you start reading, I just wanted to let you know, I'd like to comment after the reading in of the public hearing.
Okay. I have 2 letters this evening under citizen forum. They're much shorter than last time. The first one is from Ashley Kendall. I live at 12804 Pecos Road in Saddle Ridge subdivision, and I'm very concerned about the connection of the new Ivy Farms subdivision to the existing Saddle Ridge neighborhood via Pecos Road. Pecos Road is one of the longest and straightest, soon to be even longer and straighter streets in our neighborhood. Speeding is already a problem. I fear adding any more length to the road without traffic calming measures would increase the potential for excess speeding and careless driving. To make matters worse, Pecos is a road with many, many children living on it, yet there are no sidewalks providing a safe place to walk. Because of the straight, flat nature of Pecos Road, children from all over the neighborhood congregate to ride bikes, scooter, walk dogs, etc. It seems strange that the new section of the road from Ivy Farms will be equipped with sidewalks, yet will connect to a sidewalkless road while bringing more traffic all at the same time. There are many potential solutions ranging from and not limited to a gate or removable bollards for pedestrian traffic only, a narrowing of the road at the connection point, a raised speed hump at the connection point, etc. I'm hoping that the town will visit this issue and work with the residents of Saddle Ridge to come up with a solution. Keep all of us, especially the children, safe. Second letter is from Tim Sayers. Dear Sir, Madam, following are my comments that I would like to have read at the October 15, 2020 Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meeting during the Citizens Forum portion of the meeting. I'm also requesting that they and the attached photo, which I did email to you all, be distributed to the members of the MPC prior to the meeting. My name is Tim Sayers, and I live at 12812 Pecos Road, Knoxville, Tennessee 37934, which is located in Saddle Ridge subdivision. These comments reflect the position of myself and my wife, Joyce. This month, I only have one topic to address. The topic is the continued grading work being done in the Ivy Farms development. In particular, some of the portions that are adjacent to the Saddle Ridge subdivision. The current work being done at Ivy Farms is what I believe to be lots 35, 36, 64, 65, 66, and 67 is not in keeping with the grading of the adjacent lots in Saddle Ridge. These lots are adjacent to the lots in Saddle Ridge that are at the end of Alladin Lane and Lodge Pole Lane. The grading in this area in Ivy Farms is significantly higher than the grading in this area in Saddle Ridge. In some areas it appears to be at least 12 to 15 feet, if not more higher. Please see the attached picture. I request that the picture be shown on the overhead projector during the MPC meeting and also distributed to the members of the MPC. While the photo is able to convey some sense of the difference in the lot heights, really get a sense of the difference, it needs to be seen in person. If the members of the MPC have not been to the end of Paladin Lane, Lodgepole Lane, see how unsightly the grading of this lot is, I'm requesting that they come and take a look at it. They also need to imagine how much more unsightly this area will be when two-story houses are built on these lots. Not only is it unsightly, but it appears that it will direct stormwater runoff into Saddle Ridge. This grading is similar to the unsightly grading that was done, I believe it's lot 32 in the Ivy Farms, which is adjacent to the end of Pecos Road in Saddle Ridge. That the town of Farragut approved the grading of the Ivy Farms property sends the message that the plans were not thoroughly reviewed and understood prior to approval, or that the town of Farragut and Goodall Homes have little to no regard for the existing residents in Saddle Ridge. While we will never know, I have to guess that this type of grading would never be allowed if it was a lot adjacent to the homes of the MPC members. I urge the town of Farragut to consider the old phrase that says, "Don't forget who brought you the dance." The residents of Saddle Ridge that have paid taxes and supported the community for years being left in the dust in regards to the Ivy Farms project. I mean that both figuratively and literally. The residents of the town of Farragut are at a serious disadvantage in fighting the issues that are taking place in Ivy Farms. Mayor Williams and Vice Mayor Cobham clearly do not support the residents of Saddle Ridge. In addition, the Vice Mayor is also one of two aldermen for Saddle Ridge, so we have lost that voice being able to fight for us. Since the mayor and vice mayor are not supporting the residents of Saddle Ridge, I believe their position also dissuades the other members of the MPC for supporting residents of Saddle Ridge. If that was not enough, the other alderman for Saddle Ridge, Scott Meyer, has chosen to not become engaged on behalf of the residents of Saddle Ridge. The town of Farragut and Goodall Homes still has a chance to be good neighbors and listen to the voice of the people who are residents of the town of Farragut and are neighbors to the new development on the Ivy Farm property. I am once again asking the town of Farragut and Goodall Homes to be good neighbors in regards to activities and issues related to the Ivy Farms development. I appreciate the time and effort that the MPC members devote to the MPC. I also appreciate the opportunity to submit the comments. Thank you. Tim Sayers.
I think I'd like to address the grading issues that Mr. Sayers is referring to. The property developer on Ivy Farms has got to handle the stormwater issues, the drainage. There's certain standards that we require of them, but we cannot tell them exactly how they have to handle their stormwater drainage. And if you look at the topography on the Ivy Farms, all the water that comes across it is draining over towards Saddle Ridge. And they're grading to maintain the stormwater and manage the stormwater on their property. Now, I'm not a civil engineer, so I'm we require them to handle the stormwater. We cannot tell them how to handle it. Stormwater plan, you got to come up with a new one. If it does what it's supposed to do, that up and so you with more of that. Everything I just and I'm going to defend myself because I'm tired of people just dragging my name through the mud for things that I refuse to compromise on. I will not compromise on our subdivision regulations, and I will not compromise on our comprehensive land use plan. That is not something we can do. And I remind this whole body, I have a road going behind my house on Ivy Farms. It's 25 feet from my back property line, and it's going to serve 180 homes. So please don't tell me that I'm not impacted by the construction here. And I have just as many dusty days as everybody else, as they're dealing with constantly moving dump trucks out to take dirt off of this property. So I'd like to remind you of all the things that I have done for Saddle Ridge. When I first got elected, I was the one that stood up in the Hardin Valley Middle School rezoning meetings to call attention to the fact that we were still zoned for Hardin Valley Academy, and we did not want to be zoned for Hardin Valley Middle School. And I pointed out all of the many years where we were underutilized in Farragut High School because of their overzealous of rezoning us over to Hardin Valley Academy. I fought for a design exception for Union Road from 12-foot lanes and a 40-mile-per-hour design speed to 11-foot lanes and a 30-mile-per-hour design speed. That took a lot of advocated for the removal of it when the first design occurred. I also found the easement across the street from on Union Road from their HOA properties that relieved what was going to end up being a retaining wall and destruction about half of their tree-lined area. It put I reached out to Ellen Zaviska to make sure the easement across the street was to the pedestrians' benefit. It helped us align Union Road with Fleener Road, which makes it safer for Saddle Ridge residents to travel on that road. And their frontage of their I met farms to avoid construction vehicles using Pecos Road, and I advocated for the cul-de-sac design to be placed in the Ivy Farms Road that connects to Pecos Road, so that they would limit how many residents in Ivy Farms were traveling into Saddle Ridge. So clearly, I've done a lot for Saddle Ridge to try to advocate for what I can advocate for. But it's never going to be enough, because unless I'm willing then I'm things they do, and they don't want to acknowledge that they moved onto a street that dead-ended onto a farm. It was always intended to connect through. Before one house was built, that road was intended to connect through to future development Ivy Farms, and that's what it's doing. So that's all I had to say. Commissioner Myers, can you give us a little bit more feedback about what I just said about the stormwater management? Or maybe Mark, you can clear that up.
I mean, quite frankly, as long as their civil engineer designs within the standards that the town of Farragut requires, they have an approved, and assuming it follows the plans that we approved, they're doing it appropriately. Obviously, there are some grade changes that are concerning some folks over there. The silt issues that happened earlier this summer, I mean, those are not acceptable. And the town doesn't condone, anytime the silt leaves the site and stabilization issues, the developer and the builder has to deal with those issues. But as far as grade changes and they're meeting the design requirements that we set forth in our stormwater ordinance, that they're eligible to build exactly what was approved, which was reviewed for compliance.
And by design requirements, Noah, you're talking about the requirements to manage the amount of stormwater, where it's going, and keeping it on site. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, you can't keep all of it on site, but you have to detain it. And so what you have to do is you have to make sure your post-development discharge does not exceed your pre-development discharge. So you can't exacerbate the velocity of the water. You're still going to have the same volume of water that is going to go, but you have to slow the water down. And obviously an area close to Saddle Ridge is an area that topographically made the most sense, and it was chosen as the area for, you know, a stormwater feature, which normally is what we call a detention pond. And so what it sounds like, and I cannot remember the stormwater plan on that particular neighborhood, but being that Pecos Road is down at the bottom of the hill, that's where the stormwater detention pond is going to be built and located. The benefit to a stormwater detention pond is they're the quietest neighbor you're ever going to find. So for me, if I have a stormwater detention pond next to me, now the construction obviously is a hassle when that's going on, and you know some of the flooding that's occurred and so forth. Hopefully that's been corrected. But you know, it's about as good. You know, it's about like being backed up to open space. It's a pretty darn good neighbor and pretty desirable when you go to sell your house, because you know you're not going to have another neighbor sitting on that stormwater detention pond lot.
Well, that's not their concern. Their concern is if you look at Saddle Ridge, you have Pecos that comes through, and then there's three cul-de-sacs up, and they're seeing a big grading difference between where their houses sit and where how they're grading up. And my understanding is they've got to grade up because of
Am I the only one that's
water is just
struggling?
their houses and they can't have that.
Louise, I apologize. I don't know if my kids are using all my bandwidth or it's your bandwidth, but one of us is losing some bandwidth. I've struggled during part of your presentation tonight.
I'm having the same trouble hearing Louise.
Same problem.
Yeah. She's breaking in and out. Yeah, I mean, what we do from a review perspective, just like Noah and Louise was talking about, they have the applicant hires design professionals to produce a plan that, would meet the requirements. They have to look at the whole property and how everything fits together with the grading plan. And in the case of some of these lots, it's true that there is a pretty good difference of grade in a few lots there along that interface. But that was really in relation to the whole site of the Ivy project and how they have to fit the stormwater system in that entire development. So they have to look at getting the water off the streets, draining it away from adjacent properties, just the whole project to make sure that the water is going to be directed properly and not create any issues. So that is an area that would be landscaped, and it's something that perhaps we could try to work with Goodall and see if they can add some landscaping at the top of the slope if it would work out with their plan up there, in addition to material that would be added in the buffer strip, which would be at a lower grade. But that's something we could certainly ask of Goodall and see if there's an opportunity to do something like that.
I might shed light a little bit on this, and I've not been back into that farm because I don't have any rights to go back into that farm right now while it's under construction. But what I suspect is happening, and we're going to see more of this with large production builders, is these large production builders require the developer to put each individual lot on certain elevations. So basically those lots are pad ready. And what that requires is it requires more mass grading than what the town of Farragut historically is used to. Most of our subdivisions over the past 30 years, basically the grading occurred within the right of way and maybe some slope easements or slopes on both sides of the right of way. And then when the builder would come in to build a house, the builder would determine, well, am I going to put a slab here? Am I going to put a crawl space here? Am I going to put a basement here? And then the grading that occurred on the lot, which are, these lots would be basically touching the adjacent neighborhoods, the grading is then done when the house is built. Now, what's different with Goodall and Saddlebrook to a certain degree is they do the majority of the grading on the front end, and they get these houses where they're slab ready. So on lots that were never previously eligible for a slab, when I say eligible, they didn't have flat topography. All of a sudden they mass grade and they put all these lots on basically slab ready. So they don't have the expense of a crawl space. And they don't have the expense of a basement. And therefore, I think that's probably where you're getting these significant grade changes. And yes, part of it has to do with the drainage, to be able to get appropriate drainage either to the street or to the back of the lot down the side lot lines. But I think what we're really seeing here is a difference in style of what the big production builders want versus the builders that have built historically in the town of Farragut, which were smaller builders, and they would build onesie, twosie here and there, and they would grade each lot individually as they were getting the lot prepared for a foundation. I think that's the big shock that everybody's seeing. And quite frankly, as a planning commissioner, we probably ought to get more used to that, this type of mass grading going on, because as these production builders compete with each other, they have to find all the economies of scale and try to do all the grading on the front end, because quite frankly, it equates to savings in dollars.
Thank you, Noah. This is Mayor Williams. I first want to address Mrs. Kendall and really Mr. Kendall as well. I'm a little confused about the speeding on a dead-end street, but I don't live there. You do, so you're aware of it more than probably most people. But this road's not really ready yet to say that we need to look at traffic calming. If it's such that it becomes necessary, then the traffic calming application can be applied for, and it can be definitely studied, and we'll probably come up with some sort of a solution. One other long-term solution would be for the children not to play in the street. If there's a couple other cul-de-sacs that might be a better choice for children to play if they cannot play at the recreation area. And to Mr. Sayers, I don't know if I think most of us were not able to hear what Vice Mayor said, but for you, that your alderman and your vice mayor and your mayor have supported it, Saddle Ridge in every way until you ask us numerous times to not connect the secondary entrance of Ivy Farm subdivision to the designated connection on Pecos Road, which is totally against our subdivision regulations. We have to do that. I do know about construction. I think, and I'm sure the vice mayor does too. She's got it going on in her backyard. I've got it going on across the street from me in Brookmere. I live in Sugarwood, right across from Sugarwood's Brookmere. We've been eating dust for a year now, and we're probably going to eat it for another year. So it's part of what happens when you have a farm that gets built right beside you. I knew that when I moved in. I knew it was going to eventually happen. It's happening, and it's happening with you guys, and it's a bad deal. My neighbor is more livid about it than anybody because it fills his pool with dust, and which turns into mud. And I'm sure the vice mayor has the same issue that he does, and it's a constant battle to keep your cars clean. If it's outside, it's a constant battle to keep your house clean. But again, I was aware of it when I moved in, and I think you folks are aware of it now. So I'm sorry. It's part of what happens when you live next to a big farm type of property like that. It eventually sells. It's going to be happening in other parts of our town eventually. There's 3 or 4 more big pieces like that that's going to happen too, and we'll be hearing the same thing from them in the future. So I'm very sorry, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. about your mayor, your vice mayor, and your alderman, but we have no ill will to you at all. It's just we have to follow what's put in front of us, as the vice mayor said, and it may not be popular to everybody, but it is what we have to do as a planning commission and as a mayor and alderman. Thank you.
And I can attest to all of that too, with living with Bridgemore in my backyard. They've been doing this for probably 10 years or so. And it's something that we've just learned to live with and learned to live with the dust. Also causes allergy problems. But it will be a beautiful neighborhood behind us when it does finish. Has anybody got any questions or comments further at this point?
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Myers, I'll second.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Everybody, go Vols.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.